Hello and welcome to Why Bitcoin episode. It's episode 5 already. That's pretty
The
wild, eh?
big five.
Big 5. We did it. We've made it. I am one of your
That's a
hosts.
full month and a week.
That's a solid 5 weeks. That's a good number. It's a good strong
I can
number.
count too.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5. My name's Jeff. I'm one of the people at Why Bitcoin. Also here with me is,
My name is Doug, and I like Jeff.
and I sometimes like Doug, and we're here to talk about why Bitcoin to people that understand Bitcoin, people that have no idea what Bitcoin is, people that are new to the space, old to the space, and just want to laugh and learn and have a good time. Thanks for listening. Let's open up with.
Can we get some housekeeping out of the way first?
Okay, always with the housekeeping with you, yeah.
Always with the housekeeping. Number one, everything you hear tonight is not financial advice. So please do all your own research. Secondly, please join us. If you're listening on YouTube, you can find us on Spotify. If you're on Spotify, you could find us on YouTube. Not much difference really. Just it might be easier for you to do that. Also, we have a Discord where we talk about all this stuff every week. If you have questions that you want to get to us for the show, you can reach us through the Discord, which is in the
Links down below.
links down below. Okay. Also, you can reach us at askwhybitcoin@gmail.com. And you can find us at Twitter, which is
Why Bitcoin underscore, because why Bitcoin was taken. Those snazzy pants. We'll get
but
it
we're
one
the
day.
original and best.
Yeah, we are the original and best.
There you
Okay,
go.
Thanks for
So,
that.
all right, housekeeping's out of the way.
Okay, and then one other thing I wanted to say. I think with having this growing community of ours, we need to start thinking of a name for our community. And I'd love to ask anybody to offer suggestions. Some that I thought of would be one that I thought of while I was just going to get my glass of water was fellow idiots, because we're all idiots here. We're just learning. I don't know if people would think that's funny or just rude. Or also maybe ponderers. We're all pondering. What's up, ponderers? Plus, that's a fun word to say. What do you think of those name ideas? Do you have any good
I
ideas?
don't think anything of those names. I don't hate them. I don't love them. It's fine. Having never done a podcast before, I didn't realize that the podcast communities had names. Like
Oh yeah.
they named themselves. Like what are Joe Rogan's people's called?
Ooh, I don't know what Joe Rogan's peoples are called, but he's a real OG. He's got like millions and millions of people, so his community's not so much a community as it is just everyone that listens to
It's a
podcasts.
small nation, pretty much.
Yeah,
Yeah.
basically. I don't
Yeah.
know. I think other podcasts have names. I listened to a podcast called Nate Land. His name's Nate Bargatze. He's a comedian, and he calls his
Okay.
people folks. So he always opens it by saying, "Hello, folks," and it makes me smile every time.
All right. All right. Well, I'm sure something will come up. We'll get some suggestions.
We'll get some, yeah, so throw your suggestions down below. Okay, and with that, I'd like to start with a hate comment or heartwarming story of the week. And this time it's going to be a heartwarming story, which is nice. For those of
Nice.
you that aren't in crypto or Bitcoin Twitter, you may have noticed a bunch of people with laser eyes, which is just
That's where you're going with this.
oh,
Okay.
it makes me so happy. It makes my soul feel so much joy. Basically, just every Bitcoiner coming together to put laser on their eyes until Bitcoin hits 100K for no reason other than the fact that it is very, very funny and we look awesome as hell. It's just like when you're a kid and you find out how to use like funny little photo editing software and then you're like, look at my cool laser eyes. Like it's so lame, but the fact that so many people are doing it makes me so happy. And the fact that it's spread to some members of Congress and
I was going to say, yeah, 2 members of Congress have actually, I don't know which ones, but yeah, like
it just
it was immediate, like everywhere. Like,
it's showing the
since-
solidarity of Bitcoiners everywhere,
Yeah.
which makes me
Yeah.
happy.
Yeah, and it was just one of those goofy fun things that make this space so much more interesting from like a sociological standpoint, I guess, if you want to say that. Like you talk about, and we're going to talk about the dollar and the price against the yuan, and it's like super boring, and
Yep.
it's nobody, and then you're like talking to Bitcoiners and like, do you got laser eyes? Do you got diamond hands? Do you got diamond balls? And you're
It's
and like
It's so good. It's making finance stuff fun, which is probably what, the people that have run the finance world for so long have wanted it to be boring because they don't want people to learn. And Bitcoiners are like, come join us. We have laser eyes. Like, who doesn't want laser eyes?
Exactly.
It's awesome.
Yep.
So
So
that makes me
good
happy.
story. Good
In a
story.
in a
Does
sad
make me
world,
happy.
laser eyes makes you smile.
All right.
Okay, so let's pop off the question of the day. If you guys don't know, this podcast is called Why Bitcoin, and we like to ask why Bitcoin and ask different questions to answer, not because we know the answers, but maybe we can discuss them, learn things together, and try and figure out what's going on in the world. And today's question of the day is, well, why not fiat? Why Bitcoin instead of fiat? And that's a question that a lot of people might have. So with that, I'll probably ask Doug, why don't you just quickly explain what fiat is?
Okay. Fiat, very simply, is as the word fiat implies, it is mandatory. Fiat currency essentially is a non-backed.
Yeah,
Would you call it a currency or a money?
it's a
I
currency.
I realized this weekend there's actually a difference between the words money and currency.
Yeah, I learned about that too. It's kind of
Yeah, so
crazy.
that is crazy. And I can't for the life of can you refresh my memory? Do you remember the difference between money and currency?
Yeah, money is something that has I think people say it has intrinsic value, but I'm not sure if that's true. I think money just means it's backed by something, whereas
Okay.
currency is just backed by a belief system.
Okay, so fiat as the word because you don't have to when we say fiat, we're in on this show especially, we're specifically talking about fiat currency. The word fiat actually is a word that can be applied generally in the English language,
Yeah.
which means mandated. So when we say fiat currency, we're saying mandated currency, as in you have to use the US dollar for lack of or a loonie or a toonie or whatever, right? Because we have a Canadian audience as well. What do
Mhm.
they have in Australia? By the way, total sidebar, we're getting some views and listens in Australia.
Mhm.
So g'day mates down there. We appreciate you guys listening. And that was probably really tacky and you probably want to slap this American. And I would let you for that because that was really horrible and I apologize.
And
But
also,
I don't know what is their currency down there? What
their
is
currency is simply the Australian dollar.
is that it?
It's
Okay.
the dollar.
Okay.
So America started with the dollar. Canada called it the dollar. Australia calls it the dollar. But fiat can also be the British pound, the
Correct.
European euro, the yen. All of these are
Basically
fiat
just think of
currencies.
any currency, generally it's paper money, that is mandated by a government,
Hmm.
and they got that's fiat currency.
Yeah, any money that you've used in your life, if you're younger than 50 years old, has been fiat currency.
I would agree with that.
So yeah, so why not just keep using it? What is it? Why is it bad? Oh man. Okay. Why not use fiat? Um, I guess I'll roll into it. So
Yeah,
fiat.
try to be happy while you're doing it though, okay?
Yeah, I don't. It's okay. Let's see. Where do we start? So me and Doug have both been dabbling into a book called The Creature from Jekyll Island. Highly recommend reading it. It's a free audiobook. I think we've talked about it on the show before, but it will
I'll
melt.
put in the links again too.
Yeah, it'll melt your brain. It'll make you sad, but it'll make you think, and it'll make you buy Bitcoin faster than you know how to do anything else. The fiat currency system has also only been in play. Literally, it's the 50th year anniversary this July, I think it is, when
Hmm.
the gold standard was removed. The gold standard was something that was put in place. Fiat. Oh man. Okay, so fiat currency came into play when America had was using gold for currency for money, and it was
I need to
hard.
be clear on that. We
Okay.
America and the world in general actually
Yeah, the world in
used what was
general.
called the world it was called the gold standard. So what happens is essentially our paper money was tied to the amount of gold in our coffers.
Yes,
Okay.
so your paper money wasn't actually money. It was basically just a token that you could give to a bank to withdraw gold out. You could give
Right.
this
It was a
piece of paper.
promissory note,
Yeah,
essentially. Yes.
it was an
Yes. Okay.
IOU as it were.
Right. Yeah. So, and people would trade it, and the expectation always was that I could go into any bank, and we've talked about that. I think we talked about this on the very first show, actually. You could go into any bank, and if you had $20 in your pocket, you could go in and you could give that to the teller, and the teller would give you $20 worth of gold. That was the deal, right?
Hmm.
And so as a result, um, people, countries, other countries, right, um, believed in things like the dollar, whether it was an Australian dollar or a U.S. dollar or a British pound, because it was backed by something. It had value beyond the paper that was in your hand.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So what
Yeah.
happened was countries around the world started backing their money, their new fiat currencies. Canada did, basically every country did this, where they said, our money that we're issuing you, you can exchange for U.S. dollars because U.S. dollars are backed by gold.
Right.
So
So then, yeah, exactly. And that was, I believe, officially that was something to the effect of called the dollar standard or the U.S. dollar standard. Is that right?
Something like that, and that's actually what we're still on today. So when if you're listening to this right now and you're like, why do I care about the American dollar? It's because your country of origin, whatever your money is worth, it's
Mm-hmm.
measured in USD, the US dollar. You can go anywhere and say how much is an Australian dollar worth in American. You can compare it to anything else, but above
Sure.
all else, the American dollar is what it's backed by. Um, yeah,
Yep.
which is sad.
Well, unfortunately, yeah.
So America is much more in control of the world than people think. That's another thing that's kind of scary to think about when when countries think they're actually sovereign and individual, their money is backed by the American dollar. What happens to the United States if the dollar plummets, then and by that I mean if it loses value or if it goes up in value, then all the other currencies' values will go up or down accordingly. Everything is connected together. Um, so our world is already very connected in terms of money, as it is more so than I think a lot of people recognize. Would you agree?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I mean, and that was by design. That wasn't by accident.
Hmm.
That there was actually an occurrence, I believe, 1933, where FDR, um, he confiscated all of the U.S. gold, and
Yes.
that is what actually gave you the U.S. Um, lack of a better term, its purchasing power. By doing that, by consolidating all the gold underneath the federal auspices, um, the U.S. as a government could issue more fiat currency, even though technically it was still, uh,
Backed by
how
gold.
do I say this? The dollar was stronger because it had more gold backing it. And
Hmm.
that's actually what drove the nations around the world to use, on top of the fact that we had, massive manufacturing going on and extreme growth and, coming out of like World War II and stuff, where our economies were just gangbusters. It drove people to all the countries of the world, I should say, to sort of look at the US dollar and go, this is a very stable thing that we can sort of compare ourselves to. And so once Nixon separated us from the gold, he immediately separated every other country from the gold standard as well, essentially.
Yeah.
So,
Let's just kind of recap every little bit to make. I want this podcast to be as simple as possible because it's so hard for it to be simple. So fiat money started as being a piece of paper that you could exchange for gold, and then after that, the gold was all. Then you were not allowed to hold gold anymore, but you were allowed to hold currency, and the government confiscated all the gold and made it illegal to hold gold. So the government had all the gold that was available. If you were caught with it, you were put in jail. Then the fiat currency that you were holding was removed from the gold standard. So, however much fiat currency you had at home, you could no longer go to the bank and exchange it for gold. That was illegal, making fiat currency the overbearing means of exchange, not only in America, but effectively worldwide once the gold standard was lifted. And that's the world
right.
that we're living in today, which makes fiat money absolutely stupid.
Well, well, yeah, it does make it. I also want to say real quick, um, This is not a political statement for or against. Okay, obviously in America and probably around the world, I don't know because I'm a self-involved American. I don't really know, but politics right now pretty much dominates everything. Okay,
Hmm.
and I want to make it very clear. I am a very conservative person, but the Republicans are just as guilty as the Democrats on this score, as far as I'm concerned. Like in terms of what they've done to our monetary policy, it has been every president since Nixon has helped this along. So everything we're about to talk about in terms of why it's damaging, in terms of why it's stupid, as you just so eloquently put, it's everybody's fault here. Okay. And I don't want to let the American population off the hook either, because quite frankly, and we've talked about this before too, our lack of education has allowed our politicians to do this to
Yeah,
us.
but that's by
And
design as well.
that's absolutely by design, but we let it happen. So nobody's off the board on this one. Everybody's responsible, which is why I really believe this is one of the reasons why when I started learning about Bitcoin and Jeff came to me about this idea of a podcast, I was all about it because I want as many people to know, because I personally think there's still time to salvage some stuff. Not fiat necessarily, but in our terms of our own personal wealth and our own personal savings and our own personal lives, I think we can take charge, and I think we can wrestle some of that back before we all go over the edge of the cliff, I guess.
Before fiat becomes absolute, yeah, which I mean it has done in other countries. And yeah, just to hammer that point home, to say that money's not political, you can simplify that by saying it doesn't matter if you're a Democrat or Republican or libertarian or anarchist. Everybody uses money. Money isn't political. It doesn't care what you are. It's just a form of exchange. So Bitcoin is that way, the same way fiat currencies are that way. It doesn't matter what side of government you're on.
I think I would agree with that. Maybe we'll get somebody in the comments that wants to argue that point, but I feel
Well,
pretty solid ground on there.
if a political party comes out and finds a way to exchange goods and services that are, I don't know, better than another, then I'll take it. But as far as what we need to do with the money, then you need to be able to exchange it with everyone. So politics don't really matter.
In terms of like historically, politically, um, I know that like in the U.S., like Hamilton and Jefferson were at each other's throats at the very beginning, at the very foundation of this country. They were at each other's throats about a national bank, right?
Hmm.
Hamilton wanted a national bank, Jefferson didn't. And Jefferson's concern, if I remember correctly, and I'm going back to like sophomore year U.S. history right now, but his concern was kind of what we're seeing right now, was this idea of if you put too much power, i.e., money, right? Because money is a lot of different things, right? It's a measurement of time. It's also a measurement of power.
Hmm.
Okay, because if you can flex your financial muscle, you can force people's hands,
You
right?
can't do
And
anything if you don't have money. If you have no money, you have no power
well, especially
almost.
as a government.
Yeah.
I mean, right? Because that's pretty much all they are. But so Jefferson's concern, even back then, was listen, we can't be putting all this power into the hands of the government. That's not a good idea. If I remember my history correctly, I'm pretty sure that's the way it shook out.
Hmm.
Um, so, you know, I guess all I'm trying to say is I feel like maybe like initially, especially in this country, I really don't know the history of other countries, but there was a very much a political this side's for it, this side's against it. But as we've evolved, quote unquote evolved, I think we've regressed personally, but um the two sides have basically
They
they've
came to
sort
an
of
agreement.
right, exactly. So anyways, just a caveat, just a small little historical nugget that I think kind of makes a difference, but maybe it doesn't. I don't know. Maybe I'm just
There's a
being
have
old.
you not watched Hamilton the musical yet?
No, I don't watch garbage.
Okay, sorry. We're gonna end the show here. This does mark the end of our friendship. See you
No, I
guys next
actually
week
honestly
with
I do
no.
not.
Dude, what?
Fine. You know what? If we're gonna divorce though, I get the word Y in the title. You just have Bitcoin. I just have Y. That's it.
All I need is Bitcoin, and you'll be sitting there in the corner saying, "Why, why,
That's
why?"
right. Right, right, right. So
Dude, Hamilton the musical is amazing. What the hell? This podcast actually is
because
sponsored
honestly,
by
I
Hamilton the musical.
no, don't say that. Good
Yeah, it is.
lord.
Yeah.
No. How? What do I get? Do I give you? You can get a T-shirt or something?
I'll make you a T-shirt. Yeah, a
All right, make
Hamilton.
me too. I
Dude, I
didn't
love
watch
that music.
Hamilton the musical, and all I got was this lousy T-shirt.
It's so
So no,
good, dude.
I
I've
honestly,
listened to it
dude,
like 100 times.
I'm so out of pop culture. I just don't care anymore, man. I
You should
couldn't
care.
care less. No, I
Okay.
really don't.
Okay, so
I,
Hamilton started he was the first treasurer of the United States, and he made the central bank, I think. Um, there's such a good this isn't money talk, but there's such a good love
Here we
story and
go.
like other stories in Hamilton that I'm just like, oh, this is beautiful. That every time I watch it, I'm like, hey, try and do the learning part of this, and then I just get caught up singing about the love story and stuff.
You
So
shouldn't take your historical lessons from a Broadway
no,
musical,
dude,
okay?
it's good. You should.
Please understand this is the same medium that brought you Cats, okay? Like those should not
You
be.
can't compare the two.
I'm sorry,
We
Cats is like
okay.
one of the longest
Listen,
running.
the
What?
Hamilton podcast will be next week. We need to. I'll make a
I don't
podcast
wanna.
about just the
No,
Hamilton the
no.
musical
Get a new
podcast.
guest host
We
because
can do
that's
that.
ridiculous
That's
to
not a
me.
problem. Okay,
You guys,
so
if you guys want to do the Hamilton podcast, go ahead and put one in the chat right now, or F in the chat right now, whatever.
so
I don't
what
care. So
happened with
salty.
the federal with the government making a central bank, and how it has power when you say that what are you guys called, Democrats and Republicans, to
Yep.
say that it doesn't matter which side you're on? It's because they they ultimately don't have the power. The Federal Reserve has the power over Democrats and Republicans. They have the final say over what happens with the money. So it doesn't matter what a Democrat says or what a Republican says. It matters what the Federal Reserve says, and that's what happens with the money. That's why the most powerful is the Federal Reserve, and then second to that is the president of the United States and the governing political parties. So money is apolitical in the sense that it is literally above the law, which is kind of also scary, but true. Is that false?
I'm not. I honestly, I'm not sure what the charter for the Federal Reserve actually says. So could the Congress and the president shut the Fed down tomorrow? In theory, not in practice, because obviously there's a lot more webs that have been woven. But
Okay, so let's theoretically unpack that question. Could the
so
government shut down the Federal Reserve?
I think theoretically, yes, they could revoke the charter, um, because ultimately, right, the Congress is in charge of all the money. Okay. So the way I understand it, Congress essentially created a charter and allowed, and Congress does this all the God blessed time. We're trying to not to swear, right? So we don't have to
Nice,
beep
nice
it out all the time.
save, nice save.
See that save? But all the time, Congress basically creates like a committee or it creates a subcommittee, right? And it shunts its responsibilities off to other people, right? And this is a little political ploy that they do. So they can't say, "Listen, I didn't do this. That's the Fed. The Fed did this. I didn't do this. The, Housing and Urban Development did that, or the National Education Association did." Like they shunt their responsibility off, which I personally think is criminal. Okay, because we don't I didn't elect the board at the Fed. I didn't elect, housing and urban development, right?
Mhm.
I elected who I elected. So I think theoretically they could revoke the charter. They could say we don't have a Fed anymore. I
Okay,
think that's possible
so if they
in
do though,
theory.
but in as soon as that happens, if the Fed doesn't exist, then money doesn't exist because the government asks the Fed for money, not the other way around.
Well, but here's the thing is and again, I don't know the nuance. You and I didn't discuss this at all beforehand, so I have no
Yeah,
notes to go off of here.
that's okay.
But you have to figure somehow we had money beforehand, right? So the theory would be that we would revert back to that. The problem is, as you've so deftly pointed out, my friend, is that because the Fed does what it does now, it's virtually impossible to get rid of it.
Well,
It's so
unless
instrumental to the process of how government is funded, how the banks are funded,
okay,
how just money flows through the country
well
that you couldn't
let
practically get rid of it.
let's talk about it, because if the Fed is giving the banks money, right? The banks exist. Let's talk about banks for a second. I don't know if we've touched on this before, but banks only exist because people put money in the bank, right? And once people put money in the bank loans out that money to other people. And then when the bank loans out too much money, they ask the Federal Reserve for more money. So I go to the bank. I say, "Here, bank, hold my $100." The bank says, "Okay," and then they say, "Here, Doug, do you want to loan $1,000? We have $100, so you can borrow 1,000 of it." And you say, "Okay, that makes sense because 1,000 equals 100," and this is literally what happens. And then you don't pay back that $1,000, and then the bank is in debt for $900. So they say, "Hello, Federal Reserve, can we have $900, please?" And the Fed says, "No, you can't have $900. You need to have, $2,000 because you're going to have to pay interest back on this." And so if it wasn't for the banks taking people's money, if you just simply didn't put your money in the bank wouldn't have money, and thus the bank wouldn't loan money, and thus the bank wouldn't need to borrow money from the Fed, and the Fed wouldn't get paid back by the people. So, like, is that making sense so
I
far?
think I think you've sort of you've sort of woven two parts of the story together, and I think what we need to do, to be clear, again, let's try to delineate what happens pre-Fed, post-Fed, because I think
Okay.
that's the most logical way to look at it.
I actually haven't done a lot of looking into what the world looked like before the Federal Reserve, to be honest.
And yeah, because okay, so banks didn't always ask the government for cash. Banks went out of business.
Hmm.
Okay, so what happened in 1910 when you had the Jekyll Island occurrence? Okay, again, can't stress enough. Please, just read the first three chapters.
Hmm.
Okay, again,
Listen
links
to
will
it.
be below. But
You don't even have to
yeah,
read it.
yeah,
You just sit there and listen.
I even have a free audiobook link that you guys can just listen while you're doing dishes or whatever. But pre-Fed, banks would go out of business all the time. Okay, because they would make bad loans, or they
Yep.
would make what would be considered good loans, but just bad luck happened, and the company that they loaned money to or whatever went under, and it was like a big company, and it went out, right? So they lost everything. So the dudes that got together in on Jekyll Island in Georgia, okay, they didn't like this. They didn't like two things. Number one, they didn't like the fact that banks could go out of business. And two, they didn't like that there were so many banks that were making insanely bad loans. They wanted to kind of consolidate everything and sort of bring it under one roof. So their concept was, if we have banks that are making loans, and they weren't making loans, by the way, guys, to you and me, okay? They were making loans to large corporations and other countries. And that should really perk your ears up. They weren't, when Jeff's little example of he gives $100 and Doug gets 1,000, no, no, no. Jeff gives $100 and Mobile Corporation gets $1,000,
Yeah.
or Venezuela gets
I'm
$1,000,
just,
not
yeah,
Doug.
I'm trying to keep it in the
Okay.
simplest terms.
No, but I think it's important because it really shows who benefits
Yeah.
from the Fed.
Hmm.
Okay. They said, here's the plan. All right. And by the way, guys, you got to read this because, like, it was a super secret meeting. They didn't use each other's last names. Like, they switched out like the entire wait staff and stuff for the hotel that they met at. Like, the whole staff was switched over and stuff so that nobody could recognize them or
It
identify. It was
sounds
crazy.
it sounds very conspiracy theory when you listen to it, but
It really does. It
you
really does. But it's
just
all been confirmed. It's
mhm,
all did his research, definitely.
yeah.
So so they said, okay, here's what we're gonna do, guys. Okay, we're gonna get our because we're all rich folks and we all know like senators and congressmen. We're gonna get them to put this system in place whereby our banks could make loans, and if they do make a bad loan, we're gonna go to them and we're gonna say, hey, um, we're too big to fail, so you have to give us more money, right? And
And by
that
saying
essentially,
we're too big to fail, meaning that if we fail, then all of society will crumble because so many people rely on us.
right, because we have so many tendrils out into, and they were in mom and pop grocery stores, they were in, like I said, in other countries, they were in big corporations, and they would just, and the thing of it was, the deal is when it comes to loaning money, the dirty secret is if you're not paying interest on a loan, the bank isn't making money. Okay. So they are putting out every dime that they have, plus more that they don't have, okay, in order to get they have to have the cash flow in. It must happen. So what was happening was you were having countries and large corporations defaulting on the loans, okay? And then they would say, okay, dear Fed, please send us money because we're going to default. And so what they would do is essentially they would write a second loan to pay off the first loan to these countries and corporations.
Now, the,
So
the
now,
the tricky part here is that when they are giving them more money, it's money that they don't have either. It's just a miscellaneous. It's just like a, oh, you need money? Okay, here you go. Here's money. Or wait, was that
be
after?
clear in who you're talking about. Who's giving who what?
Okay, so the Fed is giving these
Right.
banks money uh, that the Federal Reserve is called the Federal Reserve, and it makes you feel like they have this reserve amount of money stashed away somewhere that they can loan out. Whereas what actually happens is the Federal Reserve has an infinite amount of money in the sense that the money doesn't exist. They just change numbers on a dial and say, okay,
And
here
why
you
does
go.
it exist? Why doesn't it exist?
Because it's backed by nothing.
Because they took us off the gold standard. Exactly. Gold
Uh,
star for Jeff today. By the way, folks, if your head is already hurting from all of this, we totally sympathize with you.
I've,
Like this is a very complicated issue, and we're trying to make it as simple as possible. And we might have to hit this a couple of times in order
yeah,
to like really get through to it. But and obviously, we're two guys that haven't scripted this out, so we're kind of like picking and choosing
we're
what we're
just, yeah.
talking about. But
I want it to
but this is
sound,
how it actually happened, guys.
yeah,
Like I want you guys to I don't want people to this is the thing, Jeff. I don't want people to get discouraged by this because you start listening to this and like
it
you
gets
start
confusing
hearing
really
about
fast.
it really does, right? And like you said at the beginning, I think it's on purpose.
It
I
is.
think it's genuinely on purpose. They made this system. It's like six layers removed, right? Because you have corporations that are going to banks, that are going to senators, that are writing bills, that are getting signed by the that are going to the Fed. And it's like
Mhm.
all of these different layers away from just some dude in the middle of Iowa,
Okay,
right?
yeah.
Like, and
So
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 it's
let's
go
simplify
ahead,
again.
go ahead.
Let's simplify again really quickly. So you put your money in the bank holds that money. The bank loans out that money, the bank doesn't have any money. The bank goes to the Fed to ask for money, the Fed gives them money, the bank says we'll pay you back by the bank says we'll pay the Fed back. The Fed waits on this money payback, but they gave them money out of nowhere. So they're literally getting paid back on something. All they did was change a number in a like a freaking in an effing account. They just changed the number,
Nice catch,
and
nice
now
catch.
all they do is sit there and say owe us more money. And this is where taxes get involved, and this is where the bank says, okay, well, we'll pay you back more because we owe you. And the Federal Reserve is sitting there like, ha ha ha, we just changed numbers. The Federal Reserve is so evil that it makes my it makes me so angry. The Federal Reserve gives money out that they don't have, that doesn't exist, that exists once they say it exists. And then the people that pay it back are taxpayers and businesses that go under and inflation costs. And this is why your money is absolutely useless and you cannot win in this system. No matter how hard you try to work and make money, the Federal Reserve simply changes numbers on a keyboard and then they have all the money that they could ever need
Let
and
me
then some because you pay them
let,
back.
let's dial it back for a second. We'll try to bring it down to the micro because it's easier for I think for people to understand. Okay,
Okay.
if if I were to loan Jeff $100 and he defaulted on the loan, and then I went
Let's
to my neighbor.
define default. Let's just make this really
Default just
simple.
basically says you literally just say I can't pay this back.
Yeah.
You say so you say, hey Doug, give me $100. I'm gonna go buy scratch lotto tickets. Okay. And I say, okay, but you're gonna owe me $100. Actually, you're gonna actually owe me like $150
Yeah.
because there's interest on this loan. And you say, okay, cool. Because you know what? I'm gonna win at scratch lotto and I'm gonna have like $600. I'll pay you back. Whatever. Doesn't matter.
Hmm.
Okay. And then you borrow the $100, you buy yourself your 100 scratch lotto tickets, and they all lose. Okay, now you owe me $150. Okay,
Yeah.
and you say I can't pay that, and I say, okay, well, here's the thing: Um, I'm going to go to my other buddy. He's going to give me $150. Okay. I'm going to give you that $150 to pay for the first loan, but now you still owe me $150 and you owe me interest on the $150. So that's $200. Okay. Now, see, I've just loaned out money I didn't have.
Hmm.
Okay. Right there, I just loaned out money. Okay. Now you go buy more scratch tickets or whatever. I don't know. You play the pony, whatever. It doesn't, I mean,
Maybe
you
buy some
buy a bunch of
fighter jets
sandwiches.
or a bunch of
Right.
oil.
It literally doesn't matter what you do with it. Okay. You come back to me, you say, ah, man, I lost that 150. I can't pay you. I can't pay you. Right. So I got to go to another guy and I got to borrow money from him. And I say, okay, now here's the thing. The other guy is always the Fed.
Yeah,
It's always the Fed.
they
Okay.
always they
I go
always
back
have
to
the
the other
money.
guy and I say, I need $200 to cover this guy's second loan. Okay. Now I give you money to cover the second loan. Okay. And by the way, it's not like I pay off that loan, essentially, right?
No,
I'm just paying it off and then give it.
and then
It's literally, if anybody did this that wasn't the Fed, they'd go to jail. And
mhm.
again, I almost just swore again. This is going to be the hardest episode not to swear on. I swear to God. Okay,
It's because it's so
because
frustrating.
it literally, if anybody else did this, they would go to jail immediately. In fact, there's a very famous person who did this. He's called Bernie Madoff, and he went to prison because it's a Ponzi scheme.
Hmm.
And that's essentially what this is. Now, here's the dirty. Well, do you
Here,
want to get to
I
this
want.
part yet?
No, I want to
Yeah,
say
go
a
ahead.
little. I want to say a little positive thing here. Through this, what I had like an aha moment, and maybe people will think I'm crazy, or maybe they won't. But I used to stress about my debt like crazy. I have credit card debt and school loan debts, and I'm not alone. You know, the majority of the of people have some debt in some factor, and that debt weighing on their like shoulders can weigh on you your entirety of your life. And that also goes to maybe you have a house mortgage and that's debt, or maybe you whatever the debt is, it's something that makes you feel lesser of a human. It makes you feel down, it makes you feel depressed. You walk around with your head down because you owe money to all these people and you never know how you're going to pay it back. Whereas the banks do the same thing and all they say is, LOL, whoops, let's try again. That's it. Oh, that's it. That's all they do. They say, LOL, whoops, okay, can we have more money, please? And then that's all they have to do. And you know what? People can do the same thing. That's what declaring bankruptcy is. Now, that's to bring it down a lot. Bankruptcy has got its negatives, but it's looked at as such a negative thing that people think it's like the worst thing in life you can do. Meanwhile, people declare bankrupt, like businesses and corporations declare bankruptcy like 3 times and then they just carry on with their lives. So if you're in debt right now and you're listening to this podcast, one, you're not alone. Two, don't let that like hurt your self-esteem or your feelings or anything. It's gonna be okay. Really, it doesn't matter. It's gonna be okay. The
It
banks
will be
the
okay.
banks don't
I
give
agree with
a,
that.
so you shouldn't give a.
I agree with that. But here's the thing, and I think we need to be accurate and fair. It does matter on an individual level, right? A corporation can say, I can't return $6 million to you, and the bank has to do something for them. Okay. If I say I owe you $6,000 and I can't pay it back, the bank says, I'm going to take your house.
Okay, but
Okay.
here's the thing. Here's the thing, right? So one, they say they're going to take your house. You say, well, I don't have a house. So that'd be me, right? I don't have a house.
Yeah.
Two, what they do is they threaten you with your credit score plummeting.
Hmm.
The thing about
Right.
credit scores, if we're going to go down this road, is credit scores have been around since, do you know when credit score, wait, maybe we already talked about this. Do you know when credit scores
No, I
were,
don't.
do you want to take
No.
a guess when credit scores became a thing?
1972.
1989. A credit score is only
Really?
a few years older than me, and a credit
Yeah.
score is how everybody views their life in general. If you have a bad
Right.
credit score, you walk around like the world is ending. They've been
Yeah.
around for 30, what is that, 32 years? That's it. That's it.
Yeah. No. 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 I agree. But listen. Okay. So this is a true story. This is not an anecdote. This is my story. Okay. Wife and I own a house. Okay. We have children. We can't afford to be out on the street. About a decade ago, we got into some bad situations. Okay. People. This happens to people all the time. All right. We got behind on our mortgage payments probably by about, I want to say, maybe 6 to 8 months worth. Okay. We ended up, because they said, we're going to take your house. And we said, well,
What
our
year
credit
was
is
this? What
ruined.
year? What years was this? 2008?
Mm, I want to say maybe around there. I honestly couldn't tell you exactly. I
Dude, you
want to
need to
say
look
8 to
into
10
that.
years ago.
Okay.
So they basically said, listen, we're gonna take your house, right? We're gonna foreclose on you, okay? And obviously we had kids and everything else. We didn't want to deal with that, so we made a deal with them. And we said, listen, here's the deal. They said this to us: we're gonna take, okay, we're gonna give you a new loan, just like they always do, but we're gonna take the interest on all the payments that you didn't make, and we're gonna tack that onto the loan, okay? So now, and I'm just going to use random numbers. They're not real numbers, okay?
Hmm.
Let's say our mortgage was $105,000, okay? We now ended up with a mortgage that was $120,000. All
Hmm.
right? They tacked on a ton of interest that I mean, do you understand that, like, we didn't make the payments. So we owed the interest. And we also, I mean, it was just, but they put it back into a loan. So now we're paying interest on top of interest. Do you see what I'm
Yes.
saying?
Yes.
So I don't want to tell people don't worry about your debt. I think you should absolutely worry about your debt. I think,
If
and
it's
this is
yeah.
you and I can disagree to or agree to disagree or whatever. I think you should get rid of all your debt.
Yeah, no,
Okay.
I agree with that. I agree with that.
I think, and I'm stealing this phrase from Dave Ramsey. Okay, your credit score is just a measurement of how much debt you like to have.
Hmm.
That's all it is. It is not, it doesn't mean you're a good person, okay? Because honestly, it literally is a measurement of how much debt you have. And you can have a lower credit score if you don't have debt, okay? If you really look at what makes up a credit score, you start to realize it has nothing to do with you. It has to do with what kind of a mark you are for the banks,
Yeah.
right? And by mark, I mean victim, sucker, okay? That's what I mean. And that is what a credit score is. It's literally just a measurement the banks use to determine, can we get money out of this guy? Okay?
Yeah.
So,
You have to
um
okay, you have to realize that a credit score comes into play a few times in your life. One, when you want to buy a house, when you want to, or not buy a house, but get a mortgage out on a house rather, or take a
right.
loan out on a car, or anything where you're borrowing money. A credit score doesn't matter at all. If you go to a house and say, "Oh, this house is on sale for $500,000. I have $500,000." Credit score doesn't matter. Person's just gonna be like, "Okay, give me the money." That's the end.
Right. Exactly.
All that matters is how much money you're going to borrow. So if you don't borrow money, your credit score doesn't matter. And everybody thinks now that owning a house is the be all end all. So in order to do that, you have to borrow money, which means you have to have a good credit score. If you let
Mhm.
go of that theory of I need to own a house one day, then your credit score doesn't matter at all. It doesn't it doesn't matter.
Well, no, because now they're using credit scores for rentals
They are
and
yeah, they are using it for rentals. You're right.
and so I mean, but here's the thing. And this is the secret, right? So like if you, let's say you had $500,000 in the bank and you went and you bought a $500,000 house, your credit score doesn't get better,
No, no.
right? It only gets better if you have debt.
Yeah.
It only gets better if you have debt and you make good payments like a good little soldier. That's what a credit score is. Get rid of your credit score. Start working all in cash.
Just yeah,
And you know what?
pay buy
The thing of it
things.
is, and this is, if you go in and you buy a car, and you say I have 20 grand, and the car is $25,000, you can find car dealerships that will go, all right, we'll knock 5 grand off because you're going to pay in cash.
Yeah,
You
almost
know?
all of them. Well, that's the
Yeah.
thing. People think that well, I don't know. Maybe I'm assuming, but you can barter almost anywhere. Like, and when I
Hmm.
mean that, I mean any. You can barter at a grocery store. You can barter at the Best Buy. You can barter anywhere. All you have to do is talk to the owner of the store. Somebody owns that Best Buy. If you talk to the owner of that Best Buy and say, "Hey, I'll take this TV off your shelf. I'll give you this cash right now." He'll do it. Like, I mean, some people will do that. People think that bartering is dead. It's far from dead. You can do it anywhere. Like, just as a small story, I was working with a guy once and we were on location and we wanted a barbecue for the house we were staying at. So we went in and there was there was a display barbecue and there was no other barbecues in the store. So boss went to the manager. Hey, manager, is the owner here? He's like, oh, actually, he is here. Hey, owner, can I take this barbecue that's sitting right here on display? And it had like, the corn husks and whatever on it. And all
Oh,
right,
really?
sure. Yeah, like straight up, like here, I'll buy this. this off of you. And yeah, I mean, $199, $200 cash. We took it and went. You can do that
And
anywhere.
how much was it? Was that shelf or
Oh, I'm sure.
sticker
Yeah,
price or
no, it was probably like a $500 thing, but he was never
yeah?
going to sell it to anybody else, right? So
No, exactly.
nobody's gonna buy a used barbecue that has shit all over it. But we didn't care. It's like, yeah, man, we just need something for a month or two here. So
Right. Yeah. So lesson to be learned here, get rid of your credit score, guys. It doesn't help you. Like the faster you can get rid of that,
well,
I know it
you
sounds
can't
counterintuitive.
you
It
can't get
sounds
rid
counterintuitive.
you can't get rid of a credit score. You always have a credit score. I think what you
Yeah.
mean is don't worry about it so much. If your credit
Right.
score is making you feel bad on a day-to-day basis, don't let that be something that makes you feel bad. Like just let go
Yeah.
of that
But
stress.
don't ignore it either. You know what I mean? Like I don't know. If I guess I should say, caveat that. If you're in debt, okay, pay your debt off. Get rid of it. Figure out how to do it. There's lots of ways. Like if you're already in collections, let's say, okay, and you're like there's some lawyer hounding you or whatever. A lot of those guys will take like let's say you owe $2,000, okay. You can probably talk to a guy at the law firm or whatever that is hounding you for the cash and say, I have 15, would you take 15? Okay. And they'll probably do it. Now,
Hmm.
caveat to that, get it in writing first. Do not pay them a dime until they have given you written documentation that says they're going to accept $1,500 to cover the debt. Okay. But take care of your debt. Don't ignore it. But what Jeff is saying is true. Okay. The whole world, right, that is not mom and pop, that is not street level, it's all debt ridden. These people are borrowing and borrowing and borrowing, and they don't give a crap at, if they pay it off or not, right? So what Jeff is saying is don't sweat it. Just take care of your business,
Yeah.
get it done, but don't let it
Don't let it ruin your day to day.
don't let it freeze you up because that's what debt does, and that's what we've been programmed. Okay, like this is a little psychology here. They make it such a big deal. Okay, they make the credit score a big deal. They make the you're in debt and your credit score is it's only 500, and they freeze you up. You freak out, right? And that
You
happened
feel
to us
lesser
with
of a
with the
person.
house.
Yeah.
You do, and it's not even, you do feel less of a person. And then you feel like, I don't even know how to handle this. I don't know who to talk to. And so you ignore it and it gets worse. And you can't do that, guys. You have to be proactive about, and I'll tell you something, the minute you start handling your business, okay, the minute you start making those phone calls, it sucks. I've been there. I know what it is. When you have to make a phone call to a debtor and say, I can't deal with this right now. Can I give you $50 a month or whatever, 20 bucks a month just to keep paying it down and to get that like reduced on your credit score and all that other fun stuff. The minute you start handling this stuff, okay, you feel better. You feel more in control.
Hmm.
So don't, what Jeff is saying is really important. I just want to like give the other side of the coin, which is don't let it freak you out. That's Jeff's side. My side is also when you're not freaking out, deal with it. Don't ignore it.
And don't, okay, so, and then on top of that, also don't, oh, I lost what I was going to say. But basically, just another small story. I have a friend, I'll say, that has school loan debt. And they came out of school with, let's just use a round number, say it's $50,000 in school loan debt. And they got a good paying job. And they worked that job and they were slowly paying off their school loan debt every 2 weeks. They get their paycheck, they pay off their school loan debt. Over time, that job is something that becomes very stressful to this person, that they don't like doing it anymore. But at that point, they feel trapped because they say, well, if I don't have this job, and it's a well paying job, if I don't have this job, I'm not going to be able to pay off my school loan debt. And then what? And then what? And the question is, and then what? Nothing. You just pay it off when you can pay it off. A lot of people are, you can find other ways to pay off debt. You don't have to get trapped in a job that you hate. You don't have to get trapped doing something that you don't want to do just to pay off a loan that you feel is going to ruin your life. If you're paying off a loan with a job that you hate, you're ruining your life yourself. If you remove yourself from the job that you hate and then find doing something that you love, even if you pay off that loan slower, at least you're enjoying your day-to-day life, and I think that's something that's really become more important to me as of late.
I agree with that. But I would also say, what would be the harm in doubling up your hustle to be done with it,
Exactly. Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Find
So
other ways.
keep your crap job. That's fine. But why don't you? I don't know. I mean,
Okay.
I
Well,
guess my point is I don't want to say the debt's just going to go away because
no,
it
it's not.
won't,
No,
and it
it's
will
not going to
follow
go
you
away.
forever.
It's
And here's my fear. Here's my fear as a parent. Okay, your debt literally will not go away. It will get passed on to your children. Okay, it doesn't just die when you do. Okay, so you have to. In my mind, this is my opinion. This is not financial advice. This is my opinion. I don't need to saddle my children with that worry, right? I want to leave them the legacy I want to leave my children isn't one of debt. I want to leave them something good, right?
mhm.
Because if you owe let's say the school loan, okay, and you never pay it or whatever, and the school decides to sue you and put a lien on the house that you own, when your children go to sell that house, right? Because you've given it to them through, through your will or whatever, then the school is going to take a big chunk of that. They'll take their chunk of that,
Okay.
right? So, you or medical bills, right? Same thing, So,
Here we're in a. This is something that I think needs to be said as well. Although I agree with what you're saying, something that I've recently realized is that when you say that, it feels like that's how it's always been and that's how it always was. But when you really back it out, okay, in my family, well, I guess there's four generations now. I have my grandparents are still alive, my mom, me, and then my son. When my grandfather was working, he had a regular job and he owned a house and he paid for his kids to do whatever. And then his kids, my mom did what she wanted to do, and then she got a regular job. And now my generation says, okay, well, we need to go to school, and we rack up this huge debt. And now, once my son is old, if I'm one of these people that got $100,000 school loan debt and I pass it off to like that, it's barely even scratched the surface of what happens. Which is why, I mean, one thing to bring it back to this podcast is called Why Bitcoin. Hopefully, the whole monetary system is how it's working in the fiat currency that we've been using, that's only been around for 50 years. Hopefully, in 20 years, it'll be a thing of the past. I think it will.
well, I mean
It's,
that's a big if, man. And there's a lot of I mean, for my money, no pun intended. I mean, these folks, they need us to be part of the system, and they're going to do everything they can to draw us into it.
yeah, that's what they did
I'm
today.
hoping I'm hoping that with this podcast, and once you listen to us, as Jeff said last week, you guys should be listening to other things. Look up Robert Kiyosaki. You can look up Dave Ramsey if you want, although I don't necessarily agree with his all of his what do we call them, prescriptions
What?
for building wealth.
Hmm.
Um, but Robert Kiyosaki, who else?
We
Um,
can list some names. We always
There's
post things to look at. And
oh, I mean, look, even Peter Schiff. You could look at Peter Schiff.
yeah,
Okay, we don't necessarily agree with what his conclusions are, but we definitely agree with his assessment of the current situation
yeah.
and current fiat situation. Okay, my point is, our point is, this podcast is about having a little fun and trying to educate and trying to talk about the things that maybe you don't want to necessarily even think about, and we're here to kind of say it's okay to think about them, it's okay to deal with them, and you will feel better when you do.
Hmm.
So do I think that the current system, the fiat system, is doomed to collapse? Yes. Do I think your debt's still going to haunt you even if it does? Yes, also that too. So
Okay.
I don't I mean, you could disagree, go ahead. If you I mean, do you think that's not true?
If I'm in debt to XYZ Bank here in Canada, and then
Yeah.
XYZ Bank goes out of business, my debt
Yeah.
doesn't matter anymore because they don't exist.
Except they probably won't go out of business. What they'll do is they'll get bought up by a bigger bank. And that bigger bank will have more resources to come after guys like you.
Yep. Okay. Well, what's the bigger bank that you're talking about? A bigger bank is in terms of a crypto bank, a Bitcoin bank, or another fiat system bank?
I mean, there are always bigger banks, right? I mean, I have never heard of a situation where somebody owed some organization money, and then that organization went out of business, and then I mean, again, that's anecdotal. I've never heard of that.
Hmm.
That that like you owed bank XYZ some money and that bank went out of business and your debt just disappeared. I've never heard of that happening. So
I haven't either, but there's a lot of firsts that happen in life.
I just don't want to. I don't want to be the person that's prescribing belief in that
No, no, I
as
know.
a
This is just
economic
my
policy.
this is my personal thought. This is my personal thought
I
for sure.
think to be fair, what you and I both feel to a great extent is the system has been screwing us so badly for so long that we kind of want to just put up our middle fingers and say screw you, right?
That's what I'm doing.
And I what I don't want to do is tell people, especially that are new to the space,
Mm.
I mean, because
Get educated
maybe
first, and then put
we'll
up your
get
middle
educated
fingers.
first, but maybe we're talking to a single mother with kids,
Mm.
right? And if she takes the tact of I'm not going to give a crap and I'm just going to live my life, she's going to make it worse for herself. You know what I mean? Like
Well,
I feel like
depend.
we have a kind of an obligation or a responsibility to cover as much ground as we can for as much of the spectrum of people out there. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
That's all I'm not really disagreeing with you. I'm just I just want to be really careful
yeah. No, no,
because the
yeah.
system, as if you said 3 or 4 times, the system is rigged against us. It really is. And I don't want to be the guy who tells somebody that, screw the system, don't worry about the system, because the system's going to come after you whether you like it or not.
I
So,
kind of want to be the guy that says screw the system. Honestly,
uh,
it's just like,
well, you know what I want to do? I want to be the guy who gets out of the system
yeah,
and
that's what
operates
I'm. Yeah,
outside of the system so
hmm
they can't touch me anymore.
yeah,
And that is why Bitcoin, because
because it's
when you
outside of the system.
when it's outside the system, they can't touch you anymore. But you got to take care of your other debts first. I got to pay off my debts. I got to be free and clear of those things. And I have to do it in a way that sets me up for the future in a smart way.
Okay,
You
but
know what I'm saying?
you can also pay off your debts and start investing in Bitcoin at the same
Oh,
time.
absolutely. No, 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 no. Please, anybody who just misconstrued what I said, you should be doing both and. You
Hmm.
should be paying off your debt and buying Bitcoin.
Okay, so
Okay?
here's another little story. Do you watch the Dragon's Den and or Shark Tank?
I've watched some Shark Tank,
Okay, so
but that was years ago.
there's one quick story of a girl that she was on there and she was doing very well for herself and she had student loan debt, but she realized that paying off her student loan debt, which cost like an extra 2% a year, whereas she had invested in something that was making her 5% a year with the same amount of money. So she just, rather than paying off her student loan debt, just continued to invest in something. So rather than making 5% and paying back 2%, I'm not explaining this very well, but basically she was making more money not paying off her loan because she was invested in something better. So if you can find something to invest in that has a greater return than the amount of debt you're getting in being in debt to something else, that's something you should look into finding. And those opportunities don't come around often, but they are out there, especially if you have a low interest debt, like something like a school loan or something like that, where you can pay it off over a long amount of time with a low amount of interest. Something like a credit card debt, you probably want to pay that off faster because it has a higher interest rate.
Well, if the argument is, are you going to throw every penny at your school debt in order to, and then you're going to sacrifice opportunity instead of that, then I would agree with you,
Mm-hmm.
right? If it cost me 2% to pay my $50,000 loan, but I could maybe save up some money and start a small business, okay? Then I personally, again, not financial advice, please do your own research. I would absolutely advocate that you build what's called assets over paying off your debt. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
I think I think if you're building something, and again, this is not buying scratch lotteries. This is building a business or investing in something that has a good rate of return. Okay, whether it's Bitcoin or
Investing in
uh,
yourself.
investing yourself, I guess that's fine. I don't know what that means, but when you build an asset as it's properly defined, an asset is something that yields a regular return. Okay, your house is not an asset; it is a liability. It does not make you money; it costs you money. Okay. Is it good to have a house? In my opinion, yes. Okay. I like my house. I like having my own. I like not being, beholden to a landlord and having to re up my lease. That's worth it to me. Is it an asset? No, absolutely not. It's a liability.
Mm.
Okay. But there's a thing called an REIT, which is where basically it's like a stock essentially you buy into for landowners, right? For like rental properties and stuff like that. You guys can research it on your own, but essentially you're buying into it and you get a return on that investment. If you have enough squirreled away, maybe you buy a rental property, or you know what I'm saying? Like if if you're giving up opportunities to get yourself into an asset in order to just pay off your school debt, that is in my opinion, I agree with you, that is a losing game,
Mm.
because you will be paying off that school debt forever and ever, amen, and at the end you'll have nothing. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You'll just have paid off a debt.
So
And go ahead.
let me explain what I mean by investing in yourself, because a lot of people will say that, and I also didn't really understood what it meant. But almost every financial YouTuber, literally any content creator that has anything to say about investing will say, "Well, just invest in yourself." And I didn't really understood what that meant for a while. But when you take a step back and think about it, all it simply means is buy things for your life that are going to make you worth more in the future. Simply as if I bought a computer just to play around with, that's a bad purchase. If I bought a computer so that I can run a podcast, so that I can perhaps make some money off it from whatever, or I bought a microphone that makes so that I can record a podcast, or I buy drills for my company, or a chop saw so that I can be more useful in the future. That's investing in yourself. That's making yourself more valuable, and those are good purchases. So if you buy things that are going to make you money in the future, don't double negative. Don't not do that.
No, no, no. That would fall under what I call an asset. Okay.
Yeah,
If you're buying a computer and here's the caveat. Okay. Start a business. In fact, I'm going to say this. I'm going to say this unequivocally. I think every single person listening to this podcast should have their own business. I
yes.
don't care what it is. Okay.
Ooh, okay,
Because
hold on. I kind of want to. We can kind of make that into its own show, but you just quickly say,
bottom line is this. Okay. The reason these very wealthy people don't pay taxes is because they don't make any money. Their companies do.
mhm.
And their companies can write off. I actually saw some. I'd have to check with my financial advisor. This might not be accurate, but I think it is. Okay? I just saw it like on Instagram or something like 2 weeks ago. One of the ways to create generational wealth that you can do, it's a trick that people use and it's legal, okay? Is you start a company, okay? And then you hire your kids. And you can pay your kids up to $12,000. Okay. They don't have to pay taxes on it, and you get to write it off as a company. So, um, oh my gosh. Okay. So, I agree with that. That whole concept of investing in yourself, yes. Invest in yourself, start a company, whether it's a podcast or a blog, or I wouldn't do streaming. I mean, you're talking about content creators. I think that's hot garbage, but I have different reasons for that. That's a personal thing, not necessarily. I mean, if you can make a living streaming, not OnlyFans, thank you very much, then I'm for it. That's fine. Um, but
Can you
look,
hear me?
this is the flip side of the coin of where we're at, right? You have so many more opportunities as a business person that they didn't have, right? So if we're gonna talk about how like the banking system didn't exist 50 years ago, neither did the opportunities right now. You can
Mhm.
run an Etsy store, you can eBay, right? I know people that literally they just buy stuff and they sell it on eBay and they sell it at a profit, right? You can. There are so many. Amazon Handmade. Okay, Amazon Handmade is an outlet through Amazon to sell your handmade goods, right? So
And not
there are a
only
lot
that,
of opportunities.
yeah, you don't just have to do something online. And also, this is something we disagree on. I'm just going to throw it right out there real quick. If you want to do an
Go ahead.
OnlyFans, by all means, do an OnlyFans. Get that money.
Mm,
Like,
I disagree with that.
I said a long time ago, actually, I think it was on one of your shows. I was like, eventually everybody's going to be naked on the internet. So I could care less. I think
No, I can't. I
if
can't do that.
that's okay. That's something we disagree on, but I'm definitely not going to be one to stop somebody from making money however they want to. A body is a body.
You know
So,
why? I think because that's I think I mean, yeah, I'm a Christian, and so obviously I have some moral objections to that.
mhm.
But just from a business standpoint, if you have to build a business and you know what every nut and bolt of your business costs, you're going to be much more proficient at that business. Okay.
Yes.
How much, how proficient are you going to be at managing your money and making sure you're turning profit if you're just taking your clothes off, man? And we can debate
Dude,
that. That's
okay.
fine. But
We can talk about that later. I
yeah,
100%
I
disagree
just,
with you there.
I
Jeez, dude.
mean, just from a business and from a moral standpoint, I have so many problems with that. Go on, go on, go on.
I don't know. That's just.
All
Oh,
right,
oh, okay.
let's,
My main point is just like, yo, basically, I use my body for my work. I lift heavy things.
yeah,
And if a person wants to use their body for their work, I see nothing wrong with that. A business person is a business person is a business person.
I
Uh,
just, mm,
either you understand what, like, a stripper is a great. There's good strippers and there's bad strippers. There's strippers that get paid and put all their money into cocaine, and there's strippers that get paid and buy assets and retain their wealth and then move on to do bigger and better things. But it's definitely a good business model if you're a smart person. You just have to use your money the right
I'm
way.
not even, you know what? I don't even need to argue with you about it because
No, it's just a
you are
moral.
you are either the type of person that believes in that and it doesn't matter what I say, you're going to do it, or you're the type of person that heard what you just said and you outhandedly reject it, and there's really not a middle ground on that, and that's fine,
Yeah.
right? Like they're in the eyes of the law, they're legitimate, both of them. It doesn't matter. Okay? And what we're talking about here is we don't listen. We don't care how you get free necessarily of your debt, and we don't care how you buy Bitcoin. I think there are better ways to do it than others, and I'm sure Jeff does too. Okay. Um,
Okay, here's one thing we can both agree on. This
all
is
right.
one thing I wanted to say at the beginning of the
Bring us
show.
back to the middle, brother. Bring us back to
So,
the middle.
so one thing you'll never do is be able to pay off your debt if you're solely doing it by selling, by working by the hour. Anybody that's working by the hour, it's very, very, very unlikely you'll ever make enough money to support yourself or pay off debts. You are much better starting your own business or working by a job or something where it's not just an hourly rate. There's only so many, there's simply only so many hours you can work. So you'll make a lot more money selling something, whether that be, selling houses or selling, I don't know, water bottles, whatever it is, rather than just punching in a clock at a grocery store, working there from 8 a.m. until 3 p.m. and then going home. You need to switch your, if you're somebody that works hourly, that's something you should look into changing as soon as possible.
You know, let's be fair. Some people, what did you say, bagging groceries or whatever?
Hmm.
Some people, that's what they want to do. They want to work 9 to 5, bagging groceries, and that's all they want to do. They want to go home, turn on a little television, drink a little glass of wine, whatever, you know, and that's it. That's what they want.
But
That's
then,
fine.
then
I
don't,
don't have a
yeah,
problem with that. I don't have a problem with that. That's fine.
just
But
don't do it
if you're
naked.
looking around at your life and you're going, why can't I seem to get ahead? Why can't I, why can't I get out of this cycle of living paycheck to paycheck? Why does it always seem like there's more week than money at the end of the week? You know what I mean?
Hmm.
Like, if you're that type of person, then the first type of person, this is really not their shore. You know what I mean? Like they're really not.
Yeah,
They wouldn't be interested in this. They're not
yeah,
looking for that next
that's
thing.
true. That's true.
So but if you are that person, that's fine. Whatever. But the people that are looking around going, how do I stop this cycle of I get a paycheck on Friday, I gotta wait 2 weeks till that next paycheck, and damn it, by like the time I get to Monday of that second week, I'm like scraping, I'm like digging into the couch for coins,
And
you
usually,
know, just to
yeah,
like
usually
to get
spent all that
gas
money on.
money.
Yeah.
And listen, man, I've been there. I know what that's like, 100%. And I mean, gosh, jeez, there are still weeks like,
Yeah.
you know, you
Well, a
get a
lot
flat
of
tire, you know, you get a flat tire, or the kid smacks himself in the face and he's got to go to the hospital, you know, to make sure he gets x-rays, to make sure, you know, whatever. Like life happens. There are lots of things that happen that you don't want them to happen. You think you're on a good path, and you think you're cruising along, and then something comes along and smacks you upside the head, and you got to deal with that. But what we're trying to say is the system that is putting you right where you are right now is not a system you want to be part of.
Mhm.
There are ways out of it. One of them is dealing with your debt. Okay, deal with that, and at the same time, start looking at things. And Jeff, I don't think we'll disagree too much. Start with things like crypto, Bitcoin, okay? And maybe investing in things like gold, silver, land, and assets. Start looking into things that generate money passively. Those are those are ways to truly build wealth and to truly get out of this rat race that we're in right now.
Use your time more efficiently to learn as much as you can. that's
Yep.
that's
Yeah.
the thesis of our whole podcast.
Yep. Yep.
Okay, let's just bring it back to what we so we kind of went off course
Oh
there,
man,
but
did we ever? So
hopefully we
listen,
said
listen.
something of
we
value
we
there.
started off with question of the day, why not fiat, and we ended up with strippers and boys at the grocery store.
Yeah,
So
so hopefully that made you realize that fiat is bad. That's all, fiat currencies are bad. We didn't really if like there's a better case for why Bitcoin in the fact of how bad fiat currencies are. If you really start to look at how bad the fiat currency system is, and we've only just scratched the surface here, once you
we
start
really
looking
have.
into how bad it is, you're going to be like, holy crap, I need to get out of this system as fast as possible. And with that, let's do a price check on Bitcoin.
Okay, okay, we're gonna have to eat little crow baby here, right? Because
What? What?
well, because
I've never heard that term before.
eat little crow means well, it means that you're gonna have to eat some humble pie. You're gonna have to take back what you said a little bit, because today, my friend, Bitcoin, it went down.
Yeah, what did it go down to? What are you sitting at right now?
I'm at 52 194.15.
Yeah, 52 108, 52 201.
All right,
So
so
that said, I mean, we're not going to go into a spiel about how Bitcoin goes up and down, but to say a fact, the
well, I
price
believe you're actually on record for like podcast number 3 where you said Bitcoin always goes up. I
it
just
does always go up.
I just wanted to point that out to you.
Okay, last week we were celebrating Bitcoin being at 53, like it was a insane thing, and now we're like, ugh, it's at 52. And that's because we saw it go up to 58,367. It was very
Mm-hmm.
close to hitting 60,000 and it went down. And this is something that happens in Bitcoin. It's volatile, as people say. It goes up and down. People buy and sell off and take profits. And we can talk about how markets work maybe on another future episode. But fact of the matter is, right now, one Bitcoin will cost you $52,350.56. And you don't need to buy a whole Bitcoin, by the way. You can buy just a tiny little piece. You can buy $1 of a Bitcoin if you really want to.
That is true. That is true.
Uh,
Also, I think we should say if you are into crypto and Bitcoin, if you're into Bitcoin for day trading, then you're worried about that. Guys
yeah,
like me and
well,
Jeff, we honestly don't care what the price of Bitcoin is right now.
ever.
I will care in the future when Bitcoin becomes a fully movable currency
It
that
is a full.
everyone's accepting and trading, then obviously that makes sense, right?
Yeah.
I mean, am I wrong?
No, you're not wrong. It's just it is
Okay.
already a full. You keep. I'll just leave
I
it for
know
now.
it bugs you when I do that, but the fact of the matter is it's not. I think it's going to become super stable once everyone starts trading it. And we're just not. Look, there's an article I just found, right? Actually, I didn't. I think it's in our Discord. Um, actually, no, it's in another buddy of mine's Discord. He talks about how about how Visa and MasterCard are coming on board, but they're not there yet. Okay, and the people that they're interviewing for this article, they're talking about how we're not quite there yet. We're not quite to the point where Bitcoin is a fully functional monetary system. It's really close. It's really. I'm just living in Reelsville, man. I'm
Hey,
just
but
telling you.
well,
I'm telling people how it is.
we can do an episode about the Lightning and Strike systems. There are plenty of Visa cards already available that you can use Bitcoin in a bunch of places. This is already happening.
Well,
The
then we better do it soon because I think it's okay. All right, prediction. I
Have you
think
downloaded the Fold app yet?
no.
Okay, download Fold.
Okay, I don't. You never sent me a link. I don't know.
Yeah, I did.
Prediction. I think by the end of this year, Bitcoin will be 85% installed as a monetary currency worldwide, including the US, including Canada. I think people like you and me will walk into places on the regular and not have to debate with people. We won't have to argue it like Diddy, okay? We won't have to go in and convince the gas guy to sell us gas in Bitcoin. I think 85% of the population will use Bitcoin in a real world fashion, in a real dollar to dollar fashion. Okay? That's my argument.
Okay,
But we're not there yet.
okay, I agree with that, and also what it's already happening in the sense that there's systems in place that exist right now where you can go in and it doesn't matter what the gas station wants to take. If they want to take money in US dollars, you have a card that
Yeah,
has
well,
Bitcoin on it, you swipe it, Bitcoin comes out of your account and dollars are deposited in their account. That's already in existence.
do you understand why I think it's important? There's a distinction there that's important because and this literally goes back to our question of the day, why not fiat? When people start trading in Bitcoin, not dollars for Bitcoin, Bitcoin becomes stable and more people will adopt it. If I have to transfer my Bitcoin into fiat, then I'm going to be screwed if it drops $9,000 like it did today, right? It went from like 58,000 down to like 48 or something like that. And then it went back up to 53. That's a huge jump back and forth. That means my gallon of gas or my gallon of milk or eggs or whatever is going to fluctuate wildly depending on what time of day I buy it. Bitcoin can't become true currency until that kind of thing goes away. And the more people that adopt it, the more that goes away. That's my argument.
I agree with that. I agree with
Okay.
that.
Okay. So price check is covered. We got a price check.
Okay, I have a game of the day
Yeah.
today. I still bite my tongue a lot. I'm like, dude, I got so much more to teach you. That's all there is
Oh,
to it.
to you? Okay.
No,
Well, you know
I
what? We
really
got a
do,
couple-
and I don't say that in like a rude way. I'm like, I've learned a lot and I've researched a lot, and I'm excited to talk to you about it. And luckily, we have a
Well,
podcast where we can
maybe
do
we
that.
need to pencil that in for an episode where we go through like we'll call it a day in the life of Jeff. How
Yeah.
does one man operate only in Bitcoin?
Dude, we can literally do that. I've heard of a lot of people on the Bitcoin standard, and when you talk about the Bitcoin standard, and I kind of feel like I'm on it now, and that when I look at my paycheck at the end of the week, I barely care about how much dollars I got. I care more about how many sats can I get this week. Like, you know what I mean? That's more important.
You want
Okay,
to dunk on a no coiner?
okay, yeah, we can do a quick
Who
dunk.
doesn't want to dunk on a no? You know what we need? Hey, chat. I'm sorry, I shouldn't call them chat. They're not chat.
To see what they need a name. The
They
Ponderers
need a
or
name.
fellow
They need a name.
idiots.
Fellow. You're gonna push this fellow idiots
I
thing.
think that's
Guys,
funny.
please push back against the fellow idiots thing.
I
'cause
think
that-
it's funny. We're idiots, and we have fellow idiots. We're
I
dumb.
don't like being an idiot. My mom says I'm cool.
Okay, we
All
can
right,
be a bunch of cool. What would that be? Cool sons. We're
Cool sons.
cool sons.
All right, who do you want to dunk on? You want to dunk on Gates or Portnoy?
Oh, let's quickly talk about Gates.
All right, let's do it. Let's go ahead and dunk
Okay,
on it.
guys, Gates. And when we say Gates, we mean Bill Gates. Good old
We
Billy.
mean the one, the only.
The one and only Bill Gates. Here, let me just pop this open. Basically, Bill Gates says cryptocurrency has no place in the future. I don't know why. I can't believe of anybody else that should be more on board with cryptocurrencies and Bitcoin than Bill Gates. He literally is one of the forefathers. I don't even know, like, I haven't done enough research in him, but as far as I know, he's pretty much the godfather of Microsoft, right? He invented a Microsoft platform that changed
Well,
the
you need
world.
to stop right there, my friend.
I know. See, I don't
not.
know. Okay, so he
He's
did.
not.
He did something that changed the way computers were. He has something to do with computers, and so for him to say that the world won't operate on a computer-based monetary
actually
system
quote
is
it.
so
What he
stupid.
what the quote is here. The quote here. Hold on, I gotta tab through.
It's brutal.
So this Goomba, this honest to God Muppet, right? He comes out and he says cryptocurrency is one innovation the world could do without. Oh, can I just go? Can I
Just
do
dunk
my
on
thing?
him. Just slam.
Okay, here we go. First of all, let's just say this, okay? And we need some sort of theme song for Duncan when we start to really roll.
Come on
him.
and slam, and welcome to the jam.
First of all, Bill Gates didn't invent Microsoft or the operating system, okay? He basically stole it from somebody else. He's just really good at marketing it. Let's just put that right on the table first. Call a spade on that one. Second of all, he's just pissed off that he didn't invent it in the first place, okay? You know why he didn't invent it? Because he's not that smart with computers. He's really good at advertising. That's what he did. Bill Gates took an operating system and he got it into the school system and into businesses first before what's that guy's before Steve Jobs, because Steve Jobs was kind of like this esoteric sort of individual. Oh man, I've never liked Bill Gates. I dislike Bill Gates more than I've ever disliked him in the last year. You know, with his whole vaccination thing, with his whole trying to block out the sun thing, with his whole everybody needs to eat synthetic meat and drink poop water. I'm done with Bill Gates. Get off my screen, Bill Gates. I'm done with you. I'm done with your poop water, and I'm done with you trying to hate on Bitcoin and on cryptocurrency because it's stupid. Okay, you're dumb. No one really likes you. I don't even think. You know what? I'm gonna stop right there.
Get dunked
bring it
on,
back.
Gates.
Uh,
Get
you
up
just-
and slam, and welcome to the jam. Nice.
Oh my God.
Good Duncan. Good Duncan.
No, seriously though, he just doesn't like it because he didn't come up with it, and or he didn't meet the guy who invented it before he could steal it and then package it and sell it. That's why he doesn't like it. That's it.
Get dunked on, Gates. Well done.
Is that rational?
Yeah,
Is that fair?
Yeah. And
No, neither one of those things. And I don't need to be, because you know what? This is our shore, and we don't have to be nice to people. And Bill Gates, you're on the dunk. You got dunked, son.
You got dunked. There you go. You got dunked. Okay. Good Duncan. Do you feel better?
Oh my gosh, I do.
Look
was
up,
cathartic, man.
yeah, look up the poop water, guys, by the way. He's not lying when he's saying that. But Bill Gates is looking into make poop water a thing in Africa.
He literally drank poop water.
Yeah, I saw
And
that as
that's
well.
like legit. Like there's. Ugh.
Just, yeah, Google Bill Gates
Yeah,
poop
I
water. You'll
totally
find it.
drank this poop water and I'm fine. But I'm a billionaire, so you should listen to me and also eat synthetic meat.
Shut up, dude.
Well,
Shut up.
Yeah, I mean,
Have you ever listened to him? Have you ever listened to actually talk?
Listen.
Honest to God, he sounds like something you would hear on the Muppet Show. I'm not even joking.
I mean, you made a very big point there. You said, I'm a billionaire, so listen to me. So once Bitcoin... No, but that's what I mean. It's true. Once Bitcoin becomes bigger and he's not wealthy anymore, he no longer has a voice. People that have voices
Are we
usually
giving him
have...
a voice in the first place is my argument.
Yeah, exactly. It's just good for Duncan on.
By the way, that was the most cathartic dunk on a no-coiner we've ever done so far, and I'm very, very pleased with it.
I'm glad you got to dunk. All right, are you ready for the game of the day?
Oh, we're going to do a game on the day?
I have a
Hey,
game of
by
the
the way,
day.
did you like Game of the Day? Did you like how I edited Game of the
Oh
Day
yeah, you
last
did a
week?
great job. Yeah.
Wasn't that fun?
You,
Okay.
you did.
All
You
right.
did good. I'm proud of you. All right, and ready for game of the day number 2. Today's game is how big a bailout.
All right, let's do it.
Okay, so on this game I have 3 companies.
Okay.
I don't really know how to. I tried to throw this game together right at the end too, but basically I have 3 companies that have been either bailed out or not bailed out, and you have to say how big of a bailout they got. So I'll say one. General Motors, did they get bailed out or not?
They did.
Ooh, okay. And now for bonus points.
Bonus points.
How big a bailout? Was it more or less than $50 billion?
Less than $50 billion.
Ooh, so close. It was actually 50 billion, 744 million,
Oh, it's a trick
640.
question. What?
No, it's
Come
not.
on.
Oh, you were
You
only.
said less than or more than. You can't say it was that number.
It was 744 million over. $744 million is a lot of money to be over by.
So it was 50,744,000,000.
$648,329 given to General Motors. I wanted to.
You know what? I am going to resign under protest on that one because
Okay.
I feel like you. That was ridiculous. Next question. I got the first half right though.
That should have been the final question. Okay, the next one. How big a bailout did this company get a bailout? AIG, American International Group.
Okay, what are my choices?
Yes or no, did they get a bailout?
Oh yeah, they got a bailout.
They got a bailout. You know they did. Okay, so what's a better way to? Do you want me to give you multiple choice on what they might have gotten? You choose one of the
Well,
three.
I mean, if you're gonna give me a less or more, that's fine. But like, it should, if
It was too tight.
if
It was
it's
too
less,
tight.
if it's less or more than 50,000, it needs to be either 49 or 51. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Okay, I know.
Okay.
I should have left that for the end.
yeah. The audience is groaning at home right
Let's see. Do you guys, would you consider $744,648,329 a lot of money, or are you like Doug and saying that's nothing?
now.
Honestly,
Listen, I'm
that's
trying to
nothing.
win fabulous prizes on this show right now. Okay, don't give me that.
Okay,
All right, what's my options? More or less than?
this one's kind of badly researched. Is it more or less than? I'll say the same number, $50 billion.
I think it's less than $50 billion.
AIG was given $67,835,000,000.
Damn.
And on top of that, that was just their first one. AIG is one of the biggest bailout things in all of American history. It's
Of course they are.
look into AIG, and that'll be a good. That's your homework for this week, listener. Look up what happened to AIG, and then try not to hurt yourself after that. Okay,
$67 billion?
$67 billion, and yeah, I'm pretty sure that was only like one of their first payments. They received more on top of that. It's rough. Okay, and the last one is Chrysler.
Chrysler also got a bailout.
They did get a bailout. You got 3 out of 3 on if they did or did not. Good job.
Oh, yeah. Because this was all part of that 2008 bailout, wasn't it?
Yeah, it is. Yeah, I should have.
yeah.
I could have made this a little bit more fun, but it's okay. Okay,
that's
did they get more or less than $50 billion?
All right, this is it. This is for all the marbles right here. I'm going to say they got more than $50 billion.
Chrysler received only a measly $10,748,284,222.
$10 billion. I mean, that's walking change for
It's
guys like you
nothing,
and
I
me,
know,
I'm
it's
sure.
crazy.
Yeah, nothing.
So yeah, I wanted to touch on bailouts this episode, but maybe that's a whole episode in itself.
Oh, that's a whole. I mean, we're gonna have to do Jekyll Island a couple of times.
Jekyll Island, the
there's so-
series, yeah.
Yeah, it's there's so much to it, man. There's so much to it. It's
You
crazy.
guys can follow along. All you got to do is read that book, and then you'll have a better understanding of the nonsense that we're talking about.
And then you know what we should do? One of these days, we should do a live show where people could actually play that game and they could get some prizes.
That'd be
That
cool.
would be kind of fun.
Yeah,
That
we'll
would be
make the
kinda
game a little bit more researched.
Oh,
and
yeah.
More questions.
Yeah,
Yeah, we can do
definitely.
that.
But
Let us know, and let us know if you guys want to be partake in the games.
also, a little piece of housekeeping again, guys. If you like this show, even a little bit, even if you're just like, hey, these guys are total idiots, right? Maybe pass it along to somebody. Maybe tell your friends, right? Because we like doing this. We think it's fun, but it's a lot more fun when we know we're sharing this with more people. So just pass our name along if you would. Be so
Just
kind.
all you have to do is tell 2 of your friends, and then if they tell 2 of their friends, and then if they tell 2 of their friends, that's like 6, 8.
Then basically you're already into a cryptocurrency Ponzi scheme, and it's perfect.
And we're crushing it. Okay, do you want me to do I have a really quick story of the week, like really, really quick story.
Yeah, go ahead.
Peter McCormack, a fella that I follow on Twitter, really cool name in the Bitcoin community, as it were. One of the first people I reached out to when I started researching, and he got back to me, and he's got quite a large following, but really top notch guy. Anyways, he owns a business, and today he tweeted out that his bank is closing all of his accounts. They're saying you're not
I
allowed to
saw
bank.
this. I saw this. It's crazy.
Yeah. So I don't know if you're fully aware of who he is, but he's a big boy. Um, just he has a big influence in the space. Anyways, in my view, I love Peter. I really like this guy. He's a good dude. But yeah, basically he said my bank contacted me. They said they're closing my accounts, even though my accounts are in surplus. I don't have any debt with them. I have 4 accounts. He owns a business that he wanted to open up a business account for. They're not letting him open up a new account. They're closing all of his accounts. Furthermore, they are he's been reaching out to other banks, and other banks are telling them that they don't want to work with him. So it's pretty scary. That just goes to show his business does have Bitcoin in the title. I actually don't know what it is, but he has a podcast called "What Bitcoin Did." I would highly recommend checking that out. Very good knowledge and a lot of good resources there to learn about Bitcoin. But yeah, he's locked out of getting a bank account now, which is pretty scary. So they're coming
Do
at
you have
people.
do you have a theory on that? Do you want to posit some sort of theory on why he's getting frozen out? Because he's not
Oh,
he's from what I've seen so I mean we have a lot of political actors, especially in America, that are getting locked out of their accounts and everything else, like okay, Alex Jones. If you don't know who Alex Jones is, then I don't know, whatever, skip over this part, I guess. But Alex Jones is frozen out of his social media accounts. He was frozen out of his PayPal. He was frozen out of Visa and MasterCard. He wasn't allowed to use. He literally couldn't make a living because of political views. Okay, he's a goofball, whatever, fine. But this guy, this Peter McCormick, what's his name? Peter
Peter
McCormick.
McCormack. Yeah.
He's not political, as far as I can tell, right?
No, he's just a Bitcoin lover.
So, are we starting to see
We're starting to see governments and people and
an
their
organization?
organizations crack down and try and really do what they can to shut down and censor and regulate into death Bitcoin. And it's a scary time. We are going to talk about on a future show how that is going to be. They're not going to be able to shut down Bitcoin. They can't, but they can sure try. And this is them going full force at it. So be careful. Um, Make sure that you're knowing what you're doing, where your money is, how you're holding it, and yeah, be afraid of what the banks can do because even they didn't give him a reason why they're closing it down. We can
No, I
spec.
saw I saw the letter that they sent him, and
Yeah,
it was pathetic, is what it
yeah,
was.
we can
Because here's a
speculate, but
guy, I mean, imagine this, chat listener, dear listener,
it's
um,
cool sons.
cool sons. Imagine your bank. You have I don't know. You have half your life savings. You have 10 grand sitting in the bank, right? Checking and savings, and the bank sends you a letter and says, "By the way, we're closing your accounts. You have 60 days, and if you don't move your stuff, we keep the money." Right? That's inherent in the system, and 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 you're not allowed to do business. You're not allowed to write a check. That debit card that you have, yeah, you're not going to be able to use that anymore. You know, and for what? Why? How is that even legal? First of all,
Yeah, it's very
right?
scary.
I mean, we
Remember, a bank is just a place where you store your money. They're nothing else
right.
than just a big house that holds stuff.
So now this guy, in theory, he's going to have to what? Take out all of his cash, and he's going to have to what? Keep it in a lockbox at home and trade that? That's ridiculous.
Yeah, I know it's scary. And they can do that to him and they will do it to other people and they will do it. I think we're going to see more and more of this come up. So, uh just know that this is a sign of Bitcoin's growth. This is a sign that things are
I believe
changing.
that. I believe that this is a move made out of fear. I don't
Yeah.
think that this is not because if you guys look at it, if you look at the letter, they don't say anything about him being in bad standing. He doesn't owe them any money. He's not a bad risk because he's not doing anything other than keeping his money in their bank.
Mhm.
Like I've actually never seen anything like this before. I
Yeah, I
have to
know.
admit.
Yeah, it's one of the craziest things. So, I just wanted to bring that up really quick.
Yeah. I think that's a good thing though. It sounds bad, but I do think it's a positive for the Bitcoin space. I
Hmm.
really do.
Yeah, it's
So,
just, but it's scary nonetheless.
all right. Well, my friends, we can see by the position of the sun in the sky. Looks like it's time for us to wrap up another episode of Why Bitcoin. Thank you so much for joining us this week. My name is Doug, and
Right?
my co-host name is Jeff. And
You took it
we've
from
really
me. I
enjoyed
thought
this.
we were gonna do the thing where we finished each other's sentences. My
all
name
right.
is Jeff,
And my name is Doug.
and this has been episode
5.
of the Why
Bitcoin.
podcast.
All right, guys, you have a good one. We'll see you next week.
Bye bye.
Bye.